In a world that moves too fast, this is your invitation to pause, to explore the space between thought and wonder, where science meets story and emotion meets insight. Here, curiosity is more than a question. It's a way of being. You found your corner of common contemplation. This is nerdy psychology. Stay curious, be kind, and keep your mind nerdy.
Let me start with a confession. There are things that I believed about people before I became a therapist that I now know were completely wrong. I thought the people who looked the most confident, the people who looked the most successful, attractive, put together, were the people who, struggled the least, had the happiest lives. Spoiler alert, I could not have been more wrong. Welcome back to Nerdy Psychology. I'm Dr. Angel, and this is where we talk about mental health in a way that's honest, grounded, and well human. Today, I want to talk about one of the biggest misconceptions we have about people and how damaging it can be for us to believe those misconceptions. One of the most consistent things I've learned after years of doing therapy is this: you cannot judge a person's inner world by their outer presentation. I'm going to say that again because it is so true. You cannot judge a person's inner world by their outer presentation. Not their job, not their bank account, not their body, not their confidence, not their social media following, nothing. Let's look at a few examples. The high achiever. That executive who they make big decisions all day with confidence and determination, and then they lay awake at night replaying every single conversation, every single decision, convinced that they're about to be exposed as a fraud. Or the strong one, that parent who holds everything together. They show up for everything else. They're the president of this group and the team parent for the after school sports, and that parent that all the other parents look up for. But inside, they haven't really let themselves feel their real emotions in years because they feel like if they do, that they're failing or falling apart. Or that social media illusion. The person whose life looks so amazing online, but inside, those people are thinking things like, if people really knew how hard this was for me, they'd be shocked. Turns out, confidence and competence don't cancel out being human. I have worked with people who, by society's standards, are like the ideal situation. Think things like, magazine cover beautiful. And sitting across from me, they're quietly saying things like, no one's ever going to really love me. Or people only want me for what I look like, not who I am. Or if I stop being impressive, I'm going to be alone, and that scares me. That messes with people's heads because from the outside, we assume beauty equals security. But internally, they are terrified of being seen. Here's the deeper psychological piece. We don't talk about this enough. When people are valued for performance, appearance, or achievement, they often grow up believing love, it's conditional. So their nervous system learns, I am safe only if I perform, or I am lovable only when I achieve, or I am wanted only if I look a certain way. And this creates this constant low-level anxiety because the bar never stays still. It's always climbing. The outside may look impressive, but the inside, people just are exhausted. And this concept shows up everywhere. You know, that high achiever who's afraid to slow down, they might be labeled lazy. Or that strong one who never asks for help. I know we all know those people in our lives. Or the attractive person who they just feel invisible. Or that competent professional who is convinced they are one mistake away from losing everything. Confidence doesn't cancel insecurity. It just hides it better. Okay, I'm going to stop. I'm going to say that one more time. Confidence doesn't cancel insecurity. It just hides it better. Now, I know this is a concept that so many people can relate to. And the reason I know this is because I hear this all the time in the counseling room. I have people who come in and they're looking at these people who have it all together. And they're like, I can never be like that person. I will never have those things. I'll never be able to achieve those things. And they sit and they're looking at other people's highlight reels of their lives, but they don't know what's under all that and inside that person and under that sacrifice and all the things that they had to get them where they're at. And so many people look at that from the outside and they don't even know where to start and they feel exhausted before they start. And so I want us to kind of sit and reflect, because there are things that we need to look at for ourselves on the inside here. And so we're going to talk about a few tools here. So tool 1, the outside inside reality check. Like, I want you to stop and ask yourself, what do people assume about me? And what is actually true? Like, what's going on inside? Do people assume, oh, I'm always the fun one, or I'm always the happy one, or my kids always behave? What are those things people are assuming about you? Just noticing that gap helps to reduce that shame. You know, I had a patient one time was talking how his family always assumed he was lazy. Oh, he spent many, many hours in his room in his early 20s just by himself, doing his thing. Had to have time on his video games, and then just putting in that time for himself. And his family always said, oh, you're never going to amount to anything. You're never going to be able to live alone. You're never going to have this. You're never going to have that. He's so lazy. These were the messages he received. And come to find out, this person was in his room thinking and planning and getting curious and designing. And he ended up inventing something that made him a whole lot of money. That wasn't true at all. He wasn't lazy. He was planning. And so the truth that other people say about us isn't true most of the time. And we take that truth on. And as he was coming in years later, already successful, that gap that he had between how others perceived him and what his truth was became shame for him to learn and grow and heal through. Tool 2, conditional versus unconditional worth. Okay, I want you to pay attention to your yes, we're talking about this word again, our self-talk, our internal messages, our dialogue, what we say to ourselves. Because I can promise you, if you really pay attention to your messages you give yourself, we are really not that good of friends to ourselves. If we talked to others the way we talk to ourselves, people would not want to be around us. And so if we're feeling and saying things like, I'm okay if I can do this, or if I accomplish this week, I'm lovable if I don't mess up, or if I can handle this, or if I can do this, I am worthy if, and fill in the blank. And this is one of those things that could have messages like literally from here around the moon and back, because there's so many of these types of messages. But all of those have something in common, and that's conditional worth talking. I want us to just pause a minute and just practice adding something into our sentences, into our self-talk. Because even if I don't perform perfectly, I still matter. Even if I don't get all this accomplished, I still have value. I'm still lovable. I'm still important. We have to start breaking that cycle of what we do equals our value, or what we accomplish equals our worth, because those two things are setting us up for failure inside of ourselves and a whole lot of anxiety inside of ourselves. We're valuable for who we are. Tool 3, this is a big one. We need to name our masks. Okay, like everybody wears masks. You know, those things that we put on so that we can show people around us the kind of person that we think we want them to see, or things we want to hide about ourselves. And to some degree, there are some things in our mask that can be very helpful. Like, for example, we're not going to walk into work with the same type of persona that we're hanging out with our friends. That wouldn't be professional. So we have that professional mask. But sometimes our masks become not authentic to who we really are, but who we think you want us to be. And those are the masks that I want us to take a look at. You know, that the mask of like that competent one, or the funny one, or the attractive one, or the fixer, or the one who, the get her done mask. Like, ask yourself, really, this is really reflective, asking yourself, what would happen if I didn't wear my masks all the time? You don't have to drop all of your masks, just some of them in safe places. We live lives that are so performative, like we're always on the stage of our life, and that's exhausting. And honestly, it hurts our mental health. It hurts our confidence. It hurts our competence. It makes us feel less than, and it makes us always measure ourselves against some invisible measuring stick where we're always never measuring up and everyone else around us is, or others around us are. Tool 4, redefine together. Okay, having it together does not mean no anxiety, or no doubt, or no struggle. Having it together means awareness, support, honesty, and that's healthy mental health. January sends us some messages that tells us that, you know, we need to fix ourselves and fix our lives, and something's wrong with us in our lives. We hear those messages all the time. But what if this year wasn't about becoming more impressive, and instead it was about becoming more honest with yourself? Not how do I have to look to have it all together, but what actually helps me feel okay inside? If you've ever looked at someone else and thought, why is this so easy for them? Remember this, you're seeing the cover, not the whole story. And if you're the one others think has it all together, guess what? You're allowed to be human. Growth does not come from pretending. It comes from telling the truth with gentleness and honesty and with support. If you have felt this episode to be helpful, please consider liking and subscribing to help support this channel and reach out to more people. Let's keep this conversation going with one assumption. What is one assumption people make about you that isn't actually true at all? For me, that assumption is that I don't have any personal problems, or that I have all the answers. And the truth is, neither one of those are true. I do have personal problems, and I absolutely do not have all the answers. And I'm a fellow sojourner in this life with all of you. And we're all on this path of learning and curiosity and discovering together. And as always, be curious, stay kind, and keep your mind nerdy. See you next week. That's a wrap.
You found your corner of common contemplation. This is nerdy psychology. Stay curious, be kind, and keep your mind